Hi, my name is Caitlin Hecker, and this is my case study of Truman Elementary School for AEP 858, Module 15. Starting off my case study, Category 1 is looking at the problem identification and analysis, so looking at the demographics of Truman Elementary School. What do I know about this building? Truman Elementary School is an elementary building for grades pre-K through 8th grade. There are 3 sections in each grade with 1 section of preschool. Grades 7 and 8 are then divided into teams. Truman is one of 4 K through 8 elementary schools in the district, ranging in size from 500 students to 700 students, and Truman is the largest in size, so we house 700 students. Truman Elementary School is located in a suburban community outside of a medium-sized Midwestern city. There are about 15% of the school's students qualify for free and reduced lunches, and about 5% of our students are ESOL, with their primary language being Spanish. Continuing with Category 1, Problem Identification Analysis of Truman Elementary School, what do I need to know? I need to know more student performance data. What assessments are being used to collect the data? How is reading and writing progress being monitored within my building? And also, when was the current curriculum adopted? Do teachers have a spelling and language arts curriculum? Do teachers have access to guided reading books to help reinforce their reading? And what input can we gather from the teachers and parents to increase our students' data, to increase their successes in reading? What can we do to make them become better readers? Continuing again with Category 1, looking at the problem for Truman Elementary School. With a fairly new principal, why are their standardized reading achievement scores worse than in math at Truman? Why are students losing ground as a cohort moving through the school? Typically, you would see them increasing in their knowledge, whereas at Truman, they are decreasing. Why are students losing ground from grade to grade? What does the current reading curriculum look like, and how can reading instruction be improved? Building leader observed teachers not using differentiated instruction, so teaching all of the students in a whole group the same reading strategies, which we know is not effective. Each student learns on their own pace, and they each require their own individualized lessons, which is not what the building leader observed. There were no small group instruction and no individualized lessons. Just looking at the data for Truman Elementary School's problem for Category 1, Problem Identification Analysis. As you can see, 3 years ago we started off at 55, 2 years ago 60, last year was 52. And looking across, you can just see the continuous decline in their median percentile. Category 2, Proposed Plan of Action with Appropriate Strategies for Implementation. So my plan of action. Starting off, I think it's important to review state standards with the building teachers and determine the gaps. Where are our students not excelling in the objectives set by the state? And how do our building standards align with the state standards? Step 2, establish goals for students at each grade level and utilize assessments to monitor their progress. Step 3, meet with district leaders and create committees to analyze data and accountability. So looking at creating a curriculum committee, a data analyzation committee, just to make sure the efforts are appropriate and meeting the objectives that we have set. Step 4, apply for additional grant funding to provide guided reading books to ensure differentiated instruction and to increase professional development, both in guided reading instruction, in data analyzing instruction, or not, in data analyzing for the teachers to increase their instruction. 5, increase the amount of time spent in the classroom, both in reading and writing. Students at home, parents were observing that students were not able to phonetically sound out their words. This impacts both writing and reading, so of course we need to increase their time in the classroom spent reading and writing, work on their spelling, work on their phonemic awareness to ensure that they can appropriately read at their grade level. Category 2, proposed plan of action with appropriate strategies for implementation. So strategies used to implement the plan. We're going to need to meet with school stakeholders to approve of the plan, so taking it to the Board of Education as well as the superintendent, making sure it's appropriate, making sure it will complete our mission. And then, of course, bringing in parent and community involvement, making sure it's what they're expecting to see their students working on, making sure it's meeting the objectives that they need at home and in the school. Meet with building staff to implement the plan. So meeting with the team, meeting with the teachers, outlining the changes. How is their reading instruction going to look now in the classroom? Providing them resources they need to be successful as teachers. Giving them those guided reading materials, guided reading books. That way the students are learning at their level versus one whole group level. And then, of course, begin collecting data. So letting the teachers know what kind of assessments they're going to be needing to administer, how often they need to be looking at this data, and what they're doing with the data. Also, our continuous school improvement plan, implementing more classroom observations to make sure the work is being successful, and like I said, ongoing assessments. Category 3, resolve the issues based on promoting the success of all students. What is best for the students of Truman Elementary School? Well, first off, curriculum that is more aligned with the expectations of the state standards, professional development for reading teachers to ensure they have the appropriate teaching strategies so they are meeting the needs of all of their students, and differentiated reading instruction so each student is capable for success versus whole group instruction where everybody's being taught the same standard or reading strategy. And also, increased reading and writing time in the classroom is ultimately what is best for students of Truman Elementary School. Without that reading background, it will make succeeding in the classroom that much harder. Category 3, resolve the issue based on promoting the success of all students. The resolution to the problem, improve teacher instruction. This would eliminate the lack of individualized assessments, moving from whole group to small group for that reading instruction. Data collection to ensure reading levels from grade to grade are increasing. This would ensure that assessment scores should begin increasing from year to year instead of declining like we've seen in the last 3 years. Regular student data progress monitoring. This would ensure that instruction is still appropriate and effective for their reading level. Again, going back to seeing increased reading scores, parents should be noticing this at home, which leads me to the next point, parent and community feedback. Begin utilizing parent surveys to ensure their reading growth at home is improving. Seeking input from parents on what they're still seeing at home is missing and what we can do in the classroom to improve that. Category 4, reflection. So my thoughts. Going through this, why is there not more data? That is first and foremost. You need data to improve anything, and we are seriously lacking in the data portion. After 3 years of continuous decline in reading data, why was the change not encouraged by building leaders first and foremost? These are the people who are in the school with the students every day. Why are we not voicing our concern that there is an issue with our curriculum? Feelings during this. I'm hopeful that the teachers will be accepting of the new plan for reading instruction. Feeling a little disappointment that it got to this point. Sad that our students had to decline for the last 3 years in reading when it should be continuous improvement. Value. The input from the parents and the community was important, and that helped get this plan in motion. And I definitely value the student growth and success, especially in reading. Category 4, some unresolved problems. Will this new plan be effective for the students? And of course, are the stakeholders supportive of the new plan? If the stakeholders, both building and parent stakeholders, are not supportive, it will be that much harder to implement it, as well as see the data results that we are hoping to see, which would be increased reading levels. Some more unresolved problems. The school day schedule. What changes need to be made to ensure that there is enough scheduled reading time for each grade level classroom? So revamping those. Where is a majority of the classroom schedule being spent on? We should have at least the 1 hour for reading and the 1 hour for writing. So we do need a 2-hour block every day for reading and writing. So looking at that. Some more unresolved problems. funding for additional resources to support the plan, so additional books for classroom libraries, maybe even look at technology for progress monitoring, look at technology for individualized lessons, get some MTSS time in there, and some intervention support, as well as professional development for teachers to ensure that they do have the means and background knowledge for guided reading instruction. Standard 8. Effective educational leaders engage families and the community in meaningful, reciprocal, and mutually beneficial ways to promote each student's academic success and well-being. Category 5, my standard examples. As the building level administrator, I acted as an agent for continuous improvement by engaging families and the community in meaningful, reciprocal, and mutually beneficial ways. My first example was I was seeking out parent and community input by using surveys to assess the changes once the plan was implemented. My second example, meeting with school stakeholders to ensure that they approve of the plan of action. And my third example, meeting with the building teachers for input on the changes being made. The teachers are the ones implementing it day to day, so their input, of course, is important. Category 5, data use examples. As the building administrator, I use the data presented to respond and communicate to the larger community their concerns about the instructional program. My first example was I created curriculum committees as well as data analyzing committees to monitor student achievement. My second example, I provided more professional development for teachers to acquire better teaching strategies. And my third example, I encouraged more reading time in the scheduled school day. Category 5, knowledge of school governing. As a building level administrator, I used my knowledge of the policies, laws, and regulations that govern the school to influence and bring about positive change in teaching and learning that impacts all student groups. Example 1, I started collecting more assessment data to ensure the plan was effective. I provided more professional development for teachers to acquire better teaching strategies, and I met with school stakeholders to gather input and share results. Category 5, continuous dialogue. As the building level administrator, I established an ongoing dialogue with decision makers outside the school concerning the efforts of teachers and students and how these decision makers can effectively influence and improve instruction and student performance. My first example was meeting with stakeholders on the plan of action being used. My second example was meeting with the school staff to monitor the success of the plan. And my third example was I met with appropriate leaders to adopt a more appropriate curriculum for our students. And that concludes my case study. Thanks for watching.